Welcome back to another exciting episode of Hot Potatoes, the show where young people are willing to talk about issues some of us will only think about. And as we consider these ethical dilemmas, we want you to also consider where do you stand on these issues when you are placed between a rock and a hard place in your Christian experience. We would like you to consider this very important topic of family issues, the ones that we live with, the people who we relate to. And our team is ready to give their views on this issue. I am Edward Apollos, and this is my team. The question I would like to pose to them is then the first one. Is it ever best to withhold truth from parents? Is it ever best to withhold truth from parents? Yes or no? And on the other side of the break, we will see where our team has decided to choose their hot potato. Welcome back to Hot Potatoes, and we are looking particularly at family issues. And here's the first one for you to consider. Is it ever best to withhold truth from parents? And our team has made their decision, and here we have nicely 6-4. So tell us. I start with you.
Well, I personally wouldn't withhold any truth from my parents because I have a good relationship with my mother. And I believe that the experience that she has in life is an advantage to me, so that with some issues where I'm not sure where to go and what to do, her experience can help. And I know that my mom has good intentions for my life. And if there's one person who I know would advise me well, if I'm in a sticky situation, that is my mom or parents.
I agree with
Okay,
Tatai.
yes.
So with my relationship with my parents has always been good. I've always been able to go to them for any advice that I've ever needed, and I think we need to trust our parents. We need to take that leap of faith and say, yes, mom, yes, dad, I'm going to trust you with whatever I have, and I'm not going to keep secrets from you, because we'll be surprised at how smart and how full of wisdom our parents actually are.
There's another side to the story, and that side is saying it's okay to withhold truth from parents. Tell us why.
Yes, we love our parents, but there sometimes when you know what your parents are, how your parents are going to react, and it's not all the time that I'm going to do good stuff. Like sometimes I'm going to do things that displease my parents, and when I do those things, I do not want their wrath on me, right? So I rather not tell them what happened, so as to save me physically and to save them the heartache.
Well, let's hear more from this group.
And again, we need to remember that I am an individual, and I think I'm of age. And if ever I would keep whatever I would be keeping, I know that I'll be keeping something that I can handle. So yeah, we don't dispute the idea or the fact that they are knowledgeable and they are they would help us in whatever problems we might have. But there are just some things that would not concern them, and I think it would be fair.
All right. But you don't agree with that, so tell
Yeah,
us more.
I think in my culture as well, we have a saying that goes that indlela ibuzwa kuba phambili, that meaning that if you want everything to be successful, you need to confirm with your elders, because there is a challenge in somebody who wants to move as an individual, but claiming that they know, whereas actually that they don't know. Now find yourself in a situation whereby that you like Tepo is saying, you're an individual, but when you get to that situation, you find that you can't help yourself, you can't do anything. But the only way and the only people closest to you that you can trust are the very same parents that you are hiding the truth from. So you are now between a line whereby who are you going to trust? Are you going to go to a friend who is the same age as that we claim that we are of the same age. I mean, the knowledge is of the same nature, but I think if I can trust my parents enough to go and confirm with them some issues, they will be honest enough to tell me that this one is going to lead you astray. This is going to take you somewhere.
All right, and furthermore,
The Bible says the truth will set you free. So I think it is good to be open with your parents and trust them enough that, you know, they will deal wisely with your situation. They won't just punish you. And that is why also it's important to, you know, for parents also to build up that good relationship with their children so that they can trust them, you know, to tell them even if they did something wrong.
yet you feel there are times when you should withhold the truth.
Truth is twofolded. There's truth that is destructive and there's truth that is constructive. And what do I mean by saying that? Is that you can never tell your parents truth that will hurt their hearts and that will damage them physically, because you can never tell something that you know that when it comes to their ears, it will distract them completely and it will break the relationship that they have with you. For example, you can never tell your parents, regardless of what they have done, that I am now a drunker. You can never say such a thing to your parents, and you know that it will damage them physically.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
go with this, and I can see
I
you
think-
ready to
yeah.
say.
I think
Say more.
again, since we are talking from a Christian point of view, the book of Proverbs writes that train up a child in a way that when they have become of age, they will never forget. So I think it's also again another thing that we should consider is that how a parent has trained up a child. When we are trained as Christians, we are trained with the value that we must be able, like Christy said, to go to our parents and confront our parents that this and that is the issue. But then if we are coming even as a Christian young adult saying that I'm going to withhold this from my parents, then somehow there must be a loose screw that was never fastened up. So that's why maybe our brothers are where they are right now.
I would
Okay.
like to mention.
Well, yes.
Yeah,
Let's give Chepo a chance to
Okay.
respond, and then Christy.
I have a
on that.
question. Do your parents tell you everything, every truth?
Someone wants to
on that,
respond to that? Okay.
can I-
More boys want to respond?
No, I don't think the parents they have to tell you everything. Remember, we are children and they are parents, so there is a difference.
Okay.
So-
On that point,
Yes.
just to respond on more
Mm.
boys. Therefore, if there's some things that they withhold from us to protect us, right? As they are our parents, because they feel as if we're not ready to actually consume that knowledge at that time. They are trying to protect us. That is the exact same thing that we're going to be doing towards them. We are protecting them from the truth that we know.
But
But
it's
how
on
do you
that point.
protect them?
Okay,
please
one, let's go,
please, yeah.
Christy.
Yeah.
It's on that point that we underestimate our parents, because we've got super moms and super dads. They know when something's up. They know, they've got this instinct manner about them that they know. Like, I remember I used to smoke and drink, and I was very, very subtle about it. I made sure that there were no trace evidence. And my mom found out. She caught me. She found out because she knew from the start, I know something's up. And she found it out. And then I felt that, you know what, rather I went to her and I said to her, listen, Mom, I have this problem. I'm struggling with it. Please pray for me. Because I knew my mom was a spiritual woman. And she knew that, I knew that she could help me in any case.
I want to take this question into another question where we look at a situation. So if you mind just to hang on with some more comment, and you can speak it to this next question. And this is where we go further. If you've discovered your brother or sister was taking drugs, should you tell your parents? And on the other side of the break, we will see what our team has decided about this hot issue. Welcome back to Hot Potatoes, and we are discussing family issues. The issue at hand is, if you discovered your brother or sister was taking drugs, should you tell your parents? And our team has taken this stand, and as you can see, we have 6-4. Let's hear from you, firstly.
I believe my parents have the right to know when there's a problem in the home, especially because they are the leaders of the home.
All right, and more?
Yes, I agree with you. It's a family problem, so we should work together as a family. Remember, if we don't work together as a family, we are going to have some consequences that might be too late to solve.
Okay, good.
I believe as a parent, you have your child. You have the best. You have your child the best interest in your child more than anyone else.
Yes.
So I believe that you can trust your parent enough to know that your parent won't tell your brother that you told her, so that they can see what they can do to help your brother.
Okay,
Uh,
and?
truth is, my brother, like my sibling, will be very disappointed in me to some an extent that I disclosed their problem, and but I so feel that it would be of a good benefit, even if mommy can go to my sister and tell my sister that, listen, Mahlo told me that you have such and such a problem, and I'm not here to condemn you, but as your mother, I'm wishing the best for you, and I need to help you.
All right, but there is another side. The men are saying, no.
No, I honestly think I wouldn't snitch on my brother. It's not what I'd do. Because perhaps we don't understand that bond that siblings have. It is the bond that is described as beyond friendship. It is beyond mother and father. It is a sibling bond. You guys share the same womb. So that bond shouldn't be broken by a silly little secret. If it is an issue and he sees that it is an issue, of course I'm going to tell him that this is wrong. And if he sees it as an issue, then it is his duty to go and tell mom. But then at this current point, he has trusted me with this secret, and me being his brother, I'm going to hold on to that secret.
Yes, and in addition to that, sir,
Yes.
my brother and I are not children, and we are grown up enough to solve our own problems. So if he comes to me with his problem, or if I discover his problem, it is my duty as his brother to solve this problem, and in solving that problem, leave him with dignity. I don't think it will be wise for me if I go and tell my parents about what my brother is doing instead of me as the elder brother solving the problem. The best decision would be for me to solve his problem. Then maybe after, when the problem is solved, we tell my parents about it.
All right, but you don't seem
Yes.
to agree with that point
Yes.
they're making.
What if you don't know how to solve or you cannot solve the problem?
You can always, like I said, we grown-ups, so you when you get to a stage where you are finished up there mentally on solutions on how to solve the problem, maybe then as a last resort you will go to your parents, but as a first resort, I think I would try my best to sort this problem out myself, right? Then tell the parents later, because in another way also you are saving your parents from strain. Like you see now, we are now old children, which means that our parents are now grown up. They're old. So it's unnecessary for us to keep straining them with every little bit of things that we go through in our lives.
Well, the thing is,
all right, Christy, let Christy go, and then you come back.
well, the thing is, like, I agree to an extent what Ndaba is saying, that we don't want to make all our things our parents' problem. We don't want to run to them with every little thing. But I don't think that my brother or my sister being addicted to drugs is at all a little thing. And specifically to my situation where I'm right now, if my brother or sister would have been addicted to drugs, and I now want to help them, sending them to rehab or whatever, I would not be able to provide the finances for that. And so I would go to my parents, I would say to my brother or my sister, listen, but we need to make a plan here. We need to go to our parents and say, this is the situation. Please, can you help us out? Because the fact of the matter is our parents care. And if they find out in a few years or in a few months, no, my son or my daughter has died because of their drug addiction, and they find out you knew, I think the repercussions of that could be
Right.
detrimental to.
Okay. No, thank you for that.
Additionally, I would like to encourage youth to not be afraid to expose their vulnerability to their parents, especially. I mean, if there's one person who has known you at your lowest, who has wiped your bum, if I can put it that way, is your mom. They are able, or your parents, they're able to deal with your mess. To some extent, it's just in them to be a parent, to know that when my child falls, I am there to pick you up. They've been picking you up since you were at a young age. And I believe that nothing is too heavy for a parent to do for their child, or too embarrassing for I don't think I would ever be a disgrace to my mother. My mother would even pray for me. Even if I'm in jail and I'm a convict, my mom would still pray for me and plead for my salvation.
I hope you are still tuned, because you're hearing this on Hot Potatoes, this series that really where young people are prepared to speak and talk about issues many of us would only think about. I would go with two more on this side.
Yes, we're not disputing what you guys are saying. We're not disputing that our parents are helpful. We're not disputing that they to help us. But what I am saying is that my loyalties lie with my brother. It is not my duty to take what he has privately told me and go tell them to my parents. It is my duty to actually convince him to go and tell him to my parents. But I'm not going to snitch out my brother. That is my biggest problem, that I am not going to betray my brother.
And Nolingo?
I think in some cases one needs to learn to be flexible sometimes. In a situation whereby you know that the problem will cause more issues on the side of the parents, before even going to tell your parents, you need to consider the fact that, are they going to handle what you are bringing to them? How will they take the matter of that your brother is taking drugs? Will it affect them in their physical life? Will it affect them spiritually? Before even going to them and telling them that, you need to consider some points before even going to them. Therefore, I say that we need to be flexible sometimes and hide that truth a little bit that will hurt your children. How do you live after knowing that, after telling your parents a heart attack has occurred and that they had died? How do you live with your life and continue after knowing that?
And that's where we're going to have to leave it. When you find yourself between a rock and a hard place, I would like you to consider one more question under family issues. A 15-year-old teenager says, when it comes to my hairstyle, my earring, my tattoo, or any part of my physical appearance, it should be my choice and not my parents' choice. Do you agree? And on the other side of the break, we will see who agrees on the Hot Potato series. Welcome back to Hot Potatoes, and we are talking about family issues. And in particular, we're looking at a 15-year-old who is really saying, it's my choice. It is interesting how our team has decided on this issue and Hot Potato. As we can see for this one, we have 1 to 9. So let us give Ndaba the opportunity to tell us his side first.
According to Erickson, when a young child, when a teenager reaches the age of 15, he's at a questioning stage, right? He questions the God of the Bible that you taught him with what he's meeting in real life. Now, he says that at that stage, it is imperative that the adult gives the teenager autonomy in decision making, right? You are there as a guide, but the final decision has to lie with the child. Because at that moment, the child has to learn what's right and wrong, the consequences of his decisions. And if you force your decision on the child at that age, your child will do the opposite of what you want. So it is imperative that you take into consideration that your time was the first 7 years with that child. If you missed that time in building up that child's basis in decision making, you are not going to be able to influence that child when he's now 15 years old.
All right, so let's hear the other side of the story as we look on this side of the line. You obviously do not agree with what he has said. Let us hear why not.
I think if I had a child who came to me at 15 and said, listen, I'm going to do what I want to do, I would say to them, listen, you are dependent on me, okay? And until the age that you are no longer dependent on me, you will live by my rules. And those rules are based on biblical principles. If you don't agree with them, then there's the door, make a plan.
Okay, then make a
And I
plan,
think-
all right? Sibusiso.
I think another thing Ndaba mentioned is that at that age, there's a critical stage where they are busy questioning the right and the wrong. And then it is my role as a parent to guide that child and say, now that you're at this age, this is how we are going to move from here. But just to allow them just to free flow like a river that just goes wherever it wants to, then it's a problem.
Okay, anyone else more from this side?
I just want to add to
Yes?
what I said. You know, there's a Bible verse that says, spare the rod, spoil the child. And I don't think that any parent who has the common sense, who loves their child, would ever want to have their child be at such a point where they just throw everything back into your face that you've taught them. And I know I said, you know, there's the door, go. But I think in reality it would be more like, listen, I really want to help you through this, but let's work together through this and see what we as family can do, as father and child can do.
All right, before we give Ndaba a closing comment, one more on this side would like to speak. I see Nolingo.
There's a scholar that I love very much, alluding to what my brother here, Spusis, was saying. And he says that a scholarly, intense man wins the confidence of his hearers. So what basically he's saying is that, what basically I'm saying is that I suggest that at that time when they are questioning, be scholarly about everything, guide them to the right position other than leaving them to do whatever they please.
Ndaba, we're giving you the closing
Yes,
comment.
I actually think these brothers and sisters are agreeing with my statement that you do not make the final decision for the child. Your role at this stage is to guide them to make that decision for themselves. So here, I'm not saying that the parent has to leave the child to do what he wants, but the parent must not make the final decision for the child. It's imperative that the child at this stage makes his own decisions, and he can make those decisions from what he's learnt in the world, taking into consideration also what you have said to him. So as a parent, you are there to guide, not to force, because many a times, if you strong arm your child to do your will, the child will always do the opposite.
And that's where we're going to have to leave it as we come to this very important juncture in our series on hot potatoes. The team has been tremendous in giving us insights, their thoughts, and even exploring these topics. And we would like the Bible to also guide us, inspired writings, to give us guidance on this very important hot potato of family issues. And we ask you to return after the break as we share with you what the Bible has to say about this hot potato. Welcome back. I'm so glad you decided to stay with us on Hot Potatoes and hear the biblical counsel and words from the inspired word according to Ellen White. We are dealing with family issues, and so I start off with a verse from Exodus 20, verse 16. It simply says, "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." Then Ephesians chapter 6 deals with family relationships, and we note the first 3 verses. "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may be well with you and that you may live long on the earth. Then that powerful book called Messages to Young People gives us such good counsel on page 332. The heart searcher knows what is your attitude toward your parents, for he is weighing moral character in the golden scales of the heavenly sanctuary. The heart searcher knows what is your attitude toward your parents, for he is weighing moral character in the golden scales of the heavenly sanctuary. What an assuring thought as we think of family issues. Colossians chapter 3 verse 20 says, "Children, be obedient to your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing to the Lord." And then Exodus 21 verse 17 tells us very clearly, as we look at some of the questions under family issues, "He who curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death." But we want to also consider what one more verse in Proverbs 22 verse 6 tells us. "Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it." And I would like to pause at this verse, because there are many, many parents who have felt despair at a child who have been raised and reared, who they've given the correct counsel. They may have even given them all the books and resources. And when the child is older, then decides to no longer follow the Lord. In dealing with family issues, it is sometimes very difficult for a brother to see how his sibling leaves the Lord and goes away on his or her own path. And so, as we look at this verse and the counsel given to us, we need to recognize how we relate to one another is very important. We can't always account for the child who becomes a young person who chooses no longer to walk God's way. But we can know that if we deal with one another in a loving way, in the right way, that God will bring them back. It is always said that the prodigal son of Luke chapter 15 remembered to go back to his father's house. Why? Because he remembered that was the place where things were happening and where he had a good time, even though he thought to leave home. And so as we consider this, may God help us to apply the counsel. I thank you for having watched this episode of Hot Potatoes, and may God bless you until the next time. Goodbye.